Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you why if you're an ADHD creator, perfectionist, or overthinker, you may be approaching video content completely wrong. It's a bold claim, I know, but what I'm going to show you in this video is the amalgamation of 5 years of experience, a lot of which I was stuck in a really vicious loop. And the worst thing about being in a loop is that you don't know that you're in it whilst you're in it. So who is this for? This is for you if you're trying to build a personal brand, if you're building publicly, if you understand that by monetizing your voice and personality, that is going to be the thing that stops you from being replaced by AI. If you are somebody who, has a private profile on Instagram and is like guarded, this probably isn't for you, and that's fine. This is for you if you're ready and willing to become more, to elevate yourself. And if you've been trying to do that and you're finding that you're in a loop of inconsistency, it might not be that you're ADHD, and it might not be that you're simply inconsistent. It might be the approach. So what did that loop look like? It always starts with motivation. So that dopamine where you're like, oh, I've got this new idea. I've got this new thing. I know what I'm doing. Oh, yes. It feels nice, doesn't it? You know the feeling. I know you do. But it only gets you so far. But whilst you've got that motivation, you do end up with high input. There was a time in 2023 where I decided that I'd put out 2 short form videos per day. And this was around the time when every video was shot on a mirrorless camera and put into Premiere Pro and edited meticulously. And that process was not sustainable for that output. And inevitably, I burned out and crashed fairly quickly, to be honest. But that high input is either going to lead to one of two things: applause or silence. The applause is nice because you've got validation. You feel like you're doing something right because people are saying, this is good, we want to see more. But if you're performing, it's not sustainable. But then possibly worse, possibly being cruel to be kind, you get silence. And that's what I got when I was doing that thing in 2023. With rejection sensitive dysphoria, that hurts. And you're like, what is wrong with me? And there's probably nothing wrong with you. You just haven't had the right approach. But inevitably, applause or silence will lead to exhaustion. And exhaustion more or less equals burnout. And when you're too mentally drained to be able to continue, continuing becomes impossible. I hope you know what I'm talking about if you're here on this video, to be honest. And exhaustion inevitably leads to disappearing. If you're lucky, that might be for a few days. It could be a few weeks. It could be years. I know Tom Noski talks about how he went so far with his visual art stuff, burned out, and then I think he didn't post for like 18 months. He then came back and grew the personal brand that we all know and love at this point. He does also talk about being ADHD and dyslexic. So he's one of us. And disappearing leads to that age-old friend of ADHD, of guilt. And guilt is not a nice place to live. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about there. But that guilt will eventually push you to restart. Probably with a new idea, probably with a new, slightly different approach. And then that takes you all the way back to the start. And I went through this cycle personally, probably 5 to 10 times. And each time it felt like I was starting at absolutely from zero, essentially. And that in itself is draining because you feel like you've made no progress. You feel like you're seeing all these people online doing a great job of whatever it is they're doing, and making progression and building their audience, building their brand, and you're just stuck going round and round in circles. And that is the loop. That, if you recognize that, I hope you don't, if I'm honest, but if you're here, you probably do. Now, what is the cost of that loop? The first big one is revenue. If you're not creating consistent content, if you're unable to be consistent in your message, you are losing out on money. You're leaving money on the table. I have done all sorts of different offers since being in online business. I've been in it since 2018. And every time I had that crest and then burned out and went back down. And I refuse to do that anymore. And my time in business has been quite a spiritual experience, if anything, because I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned that what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. But I have certainly had revenue suffer because of it. And I don't want that for you. The other things are, if you are performing that leads to burnout. So if you're constantly being someone that deep down you are not actually, if you're putting on a mask, putting on a front and a facade, that requires maintenance. And that will be exhausting at some point or another. And then when you disappearance, that means trust is broken. If you disappear on your audience, if you disappear on clients, they're not going to have the same affinity with you. They'll feel let down. If you disappear on yourself, self-trust is broken. And if you're willing to quit on yourself for content, what else are you willing to quit on yourself for? Whatever it is, like fitness is a really good example. If you quit out on making content and growing your business and being consistent with that, are you then going to dip out of your fitness and nutrition programs? And then another part of the cost is that you cannot scale a dysregulated system. So if you are in survival mode, it's going to be impossible to maintain consistency, because survival mode isn't meant to be something that you're consistently in. Like if we think back to caveman times, maybe when we're on the savannah, survival mode was, holy shit, there's a lion coming to eat me, better get away from it. That system runs on adrenaline and, well, dopamine. It doesn't run on being calm and serotonin and being regulated. So if you want to consistently be yourself and allow for space and poise and balance, these are not things that come from being in a high stress state of survival. And then the final part of the cost aspect of this is that AI can replace you. Anything that you're doing other than anything that you're doing that isn't showing your personality and creating content and showing up consistently, AI can do. Even if you're writing posts, AI can write posts. And unless you're a fantastic writer, AI is slowly but surely taking over that part of the industry. So AI can replace you, and you don't want that. If you can make a living from being who you are and monetizing your personality, and that is the one simple key to not being replaced by AI, you have to learn how to do that, surely. So why does the usual advice not work? So have you heard things such as be more confident? Or be more consistent? And I know I've said that, but I'm talking about people just blindly telling you to be more consistent. I'm going to show you what needs to happen in order to be more consistent, like genuinely. These two things are performance-based. So if somebody says be confident or be consistent and you go, oh yes, okay, and you go away and try to do those things, you are not doing it from a place of inner work, like integrity. It's coming from a place of, oh, I will perform confidently or I will perform consistently. And performance, again, comes from a survival mode. The other things you may have heard are things such as use better hooks or thumbnails. That's another big one, especially on YouTube. These are strategic things. These are the icing on the cake. If you can't speak as yourself or you freeze as soon as you've turned on a camera, the hook doesn't mean shit. Because something that nobody talks about in this space when it comes to the hook, yes, you have to gain somebody's attention in 3 seconds, but if you've done it in a inauthentic way, people can feel that. Like the strategy isn't going to be an issue. Well, it's not worth thinking about if the main body of what you're trying to do isn't solid. If your foundations aren't there, that's what I'm trying to say. And then finally, use AI. If you get AI to write all your content, if you create an AI clone, people can feel that. I find it to be inauthentic. It's not genuine. It's lacking human connection, and I don't want to go that way. I think as somebody with ADHD who thinks in a certain way, that is very different. It's literally called neurodivergence. We don't think like the average person. To then go, oh, I'm going to outsource my thinking and everything to a computer, you're giving up all of the gifts that come along with this thing that's technically a disorder. So you're still stuck with all the bad shit, and then you're outsourcing your thinking to a computer. Like, that's not a situation I want to be in. Those are the things that we usually get told. And genuinely, you don't have a content problem. You don't have a strategy problem. It's simply a regulation problem. So that loop that I described before, it all comes down to freeze or perform. So when the camera goes on, if you are dysregulated, these are the two main reactions, and they come down to protection. And as somebody who isn't natural on camera to start with, I experience a lot of different elements of protection. So this is a scale. So we have freeze over here. We have perform here. And in the middle, we have some others like overthinking, and over preparing, over prep, and the need for like scripting too. And I've experienced pretty much everything along this this scale, but they all come from the same place. They all come from you trying to protect yourself because being on camera isn't intrinsically safe to you. Being seen has been linked in your mind with being judged. And if we're going to monetize our personality and voice and build a personal brand, we have to break that connection or shit ain't going anywhere. And this all comes down to collapse or control. So collapse, obviously, would be freezing. It's where you turn the camera on and you don't have a clue what to say. I've literally sat for 90 minutes straight in front of a camera that's turned on and ready to record, thinking about what to say, what am I trying to say? And 90 minutes went by and I didn't record anything. There have been other times when I've performed. Back in 2023, around that time, especially with the uptake of Hormozy style reels, where it was all like high energy, like children's TV show vibes, like, yes, I've got to do this. I fell into that trap. I didn't know how I could give information without having to mask as somebody who was high energy. Turns out sometimes I have high energy, sometimes I don't, but I don't need to force it. But I understand this concept of freeze or perform and collapse or control. And there is a different way. So what does the future look like if you're unable to get over this, or if you start being genuine and authentic and creating a proper personal brand? So moving forward, information is infinite. People aren't buying information anymore, not like they used to. Back in the day, 2020 or so, you could sell just a course for thousands that had very rudimentary information in it. I bought several. Actually, no, I bootlegged a few that I'm glad I didn't pay full price for, where the information was so simple and at full price, it was several thousand. The ones I'm thinking of, I didn't pay that for, and I'm really glad that I didn't. But you can't get away with that anymore because you can literally ask any of the AI models what you want to know, and it will give you an answer instantly. It'll tell you what you need to learn, and it can adapt with a course. You've literally got this set piece of information, and if you have something that's slightly different or a different circumstance than what the course covers, you're like on your own. So information is not the way to go anymore. It's infinite. So what is the solution there? It's identity. Identity is scarce. So the more that information becomes readily available, the more AI replaces the less human aspects of what we're able to do, the more human we need to be, the more authentic, the more genuine, the more able to speak on camera we need to be able to attract people to us, because they're not attracted to the information that we know, they're attracted to us as people. What your advantage is moving forward is regulated authenticity. And I'm not saying that you need to start verbal diarrhea and word vomiting everything that's ever happened to you in order to do this. Regulated authenticity just means that you're not overperforming or freezing every time you go to get on camera, which means you're speaking from your core, from your heart, whatever you want to call it. And in doing so, you are able to be very consistent with very little effort realistically, which then means you can pump out a much higher volume of content. And another thing that Tom Nosky talks about is that people are judged on their body of work rather than by their Mona Lisa. That's a Leonardo da Vinci reference, by the way. He did all sorts of stuff. The Mona Lisa might be the most famous, but he wasn't just known for that. Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody is probably one of the best songs ever written. They were also obviously known for like We Are the Champions, We Will Rock You, and a whole host of other great songs. We're judged by the body of work that we create. In order to create a large body of video content, you can't be dysregulated. So what is the solution? How do we regulate? I want to introduce you to the RAD framework. So R is for recognize. Much like with any kind of 12-step program, the first step is to understand that you have a problem and figure out what that problem is. Figure out where on that scale of freeze or perform you are, and to figure out what that's doing to you and where we need to go from there. A is for align. That is learning more regulation techniques, how we can actually be regulated on camera, how we can do this with sustainability, and then develop. Once you've started being able to speak from a place of truth and authenticity and balance, we can then develop that brand voice that everyone talks about, but not in a way that it's plucked from thin air and you have to then perform to be able to do it. You develop your voice from genuine confidence that comes from just being able to speak as yourself. If you can take this information and go away and implement it yourself, absolutely ideal. If you want some help with that, I would like to invite you to Content Made Real. So if you are serious about building a personal brand that is genuine and authentic to you, built on your actual personality, and you're done with freezing or performing, collapsing or controlling, and you actually want to beat AI by learning to be more human and to actually speak on camera without that constriction, come and join Content Made Real. It's a 12-week container. You do get a curriculum. There's 2 lessons each week and then an assignment. And then you can take your results from the assignment, come to the group coaching calls, and I will help you through the process of letting go. And I want you to be able to speak on camera with such confidence that you know full well that you will never be replaced by AI, because whatever it is that you have as your offer, you can articulate yourself in such a way that AI will never compete. So if you want to be part of Content Made Real, go to my Instagram, message me 21. I'll send you over an offer document. It goes through all the details of the program. Let me know whether you're in or out. There's no high pressure sales because I'm not into that, but there are limited spots each month. So don't fuck around. Other than that, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope my 5 years of experience and learning this shit has not been for nothing. And go out there, break the freeze and perform cycle, and I will see you next time. Peace.